What's up, y'all? It's your boy Niner Faithful.
What's up, everybody? It's Adam from 49ers Insiders over here. Hope everyone's having a great Cinco de Mayo.
Everybody have a blessed. We hope everybody had a blessed week, and yes, for all our Mexican brothers and sisters, happy Cinco de Mayo. I mean,
Happy Cinco de
I guess
Mayo.
you could be anything to celebrate Cinco de Mayo, but
I mean, it's
it's really
America. If there's something to
yeah,
fucking drink over, excuse me right there, but we're gonna probably
yeah,
do it. We're gonna do it.
yeah, right. St. Patrick's Day, 4th of July. Anyway,
Exactly.
um, so today we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna touch on our rookie signings and undrafted free agent signings. The beef between John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, which by the quotation marks you could probably understand where me and Adam stand on that. And we're gonna go ahead and touch on the rookie mini camp, and I think we're gonna get into we'll get into a little bit of a brief 90 kind of soft 90 53 man kind of look at the roster because we are officially, as I saw your tweet that you put out, you know, maybe 20 minutes ago. I
Yeah.
saw your tweet, bro. So we're at 90 officially right now. So before we get started today, I first want to thank everybody for who's joining us for the first time. I'm a goofball, so I didn't realize. I thought people were just ignoring my posts. I didn't realize people weren't seeing them. Apparently, I didn't know there's algorithms and everything to get your posts seen on Facebook. But real quick, this officially happened, I guess, sometime last night while I was sleeping. I'm trying to control my emotions. We have officially hit 1,000 likes on Facebook.
Ooh, ooh, ooh,
And
ooh, ooh, ooh.
like, honestly, that's kind of a lot of people. Like, I'll put it to you this way: if we can translate that to from Facebook to YouTube, I mean that's pretty much accomplishing our goal with what we want with the 4,200 watch minutes and the
For sure.
1,200 subscribers. So, I mean, I remember looking at my page and seeing maybe like 4 likes. And it was like that. I started it, I believe it, Facebook told me it. I started it May 31st, so creeping up pretty close to 2 years ago. And I remember I had like 4 likes for like the first like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, just, slowly but surely building up over that over 2 years. I mean, I may not get all the engagements I want. I may not get all the likes I want. I don't get all the comments I want or anything like that. But I really want to say from the bottom of my heart, y'all, that really means a lot. Thank you so much. All that support. For everybody who's watching for the first time, I thank you so much for watching. Normally, well, let's be real. Normally, I ramble like this anyway. Uh, but so before we get started, get your questions to Adam and I. I actually do have a question that we're going to get into, and it's going to tie into rookie minicamp. So um, it was perfect timing. But go ahead and email the show at ninerfaithfulradio@gmail.com. Niner Faithful Radio is on Facebook at Niner Faithful Radio, Instagram, Niner Faithful Radio, Twitter at Niner Faithful R, and Adam, who's way more active on Twitter than I am. I'm starting to try to I'm getting a little bit better at being active on Twitter.
Sure.
A
Hey, only
little
so much
bit.
time in the day. Only so much time in the day. You got to pick and choose your battles sometimes, but that's why we're a
Also,
team.
I think it's I don't want to even say a generational thing because we're not that far apart in age, but I think it's just kind of I was brought up on Facebook, and so I think it's always kind of been some people prefer Twitter, some people prefer Facebook. I just kind of more active on Facebook.
Yeah.
More of my friends are on Facebook. So yeah. Anyway, um, just go ahead and hit us up. Adam's at 49ers Insiders. So go ahead and hit up either one of us, and his DM is always open, as is mine. So anytime you have any questions or concerns or suggestions for the show or anything like that, go ahead and feel free to hit us up. Participate in our weekly poll. We've actually been getting a lot of. We had 145 votes on Twitter and 37 on Facebook, which is that's pretty good. That's awesome. I'll go ahead and after we're done with this spiel, I'll go ahead and touch on the results. But go ahead and we'll give away weekly prizes. Next week, I will be announcing, if possible, what we're doing for the draft. I have some goodies from the draft. I'll go ahead and give some of that away. I have some things I have to give some people, but we're gonna definitely be giving away some goodies I got at the draft next week. That'll be our our poll reward. So all you got to do is like either Facebook or follow us on Twitter or like 49ers Insiders on Twitter and vote, and you'll be eligible to win. We'll try to do something on Twitter and something on Facebook. Obviously, as you can see, we're now on YouTube. We're trying to get monetized to help fund the cost. As you see, me and Adam both have our brand new Niner Faithful Radio t-shirts. Awesome. So we will be selling those on the show or at Niner Faithful Radio Shop a little bit more in a second. But as you see, we have costs associated with running this. I mean, the way I want to do this, I don't do this as a hobby. I do this as a business. So, we have business cards, we have T-shirts, we have, phone bills to pay, we have, subscriptions to pay, we have, hosting services to pay for. So, everything. So we're trying to monetize YouTube. So to incentivize that, what we are trying to do is what we're going to do is we're going to give away a ticket to a game this year. And we're going to invite you to Empire Row for a tailgate. And we're also going to get you a ticket to go to the Niners Museum at Levi Stadium, probably this Saturday. I would assume people would fly out maybe Friday, Saturday, go to the museum, We'll work all those details out. But also, shop Niner Faithful Radio Shop for your official licensed gear from 49ershop.com, NFLshop.com, Fanatics.com, Target, eBay, Amazon, and much more. Visit NinerFaithfulRadio.com/shop or like us on Facebook at Niner Faithful Radio Shop. We will be selling these T-shirts probably within the next couple weeks. We will have a 20% discount code that you'll be able to get these for $20. Normally, we're going to sell them for $25. They basically look the exact same, except instead of all the subscriber information, it's just going to say the top and then the website. So we'll have hopefully hats, stickers, all that type of stuff going up within the next couple weeks. Join our Patreon rewards program for as little as $1 a month. You can have special perks like joining us for a segment on Niner Faithful Radio, 20% off at our shop, and all sorts of different type of rewards. Visit www.patreon.com/Niner Faithful Radio. Go to SeatGiant.com. Use the promo code Niner Faithful Radio to save on all your ticket purchases. And visit NinerFaithfulRadio.com to read all our blogs from Nothing But Niners and Sports Elite. Big shout out to Nothing But Niners. I'm pretty sure you're watching, Nick. I don't see you in the live chat yet, but you pretty much watch every video. So what's up, bro? And you read our blogs and also see our advertising packages that are available. We got advertising packages that we're launching now. Even we have prices that can get expensive depending on what exactly you want. But me and Adam are reasonable people, and we're not greedy. So we're not looking to be millionaires from doing this, even though it'd be nice. But you know what? If I could. Honestly, if I could pay Adam for his time, you know what I'm saying? Because, this man does dedicate time, out of his day to do this. And myself, and be able to pay like a phone bill and, not have Niner Faithful Radio cost me anything. Maybe get a ticket to a game once a year. Me and Adam come out for a game once a year.
That'd be a nice little 12-pack after the show. I mean,
yeah.
You never know what's going on, But
exactly.
At the end of the day, I'm sure you'll agree, we'll take any support, and at the end of the day, we really appreciate it too. So.
And honestly, let's be real. Even you watching and sharing, that's all the support we really need.
Yeah.
You know what? If I never make $1, but I know I have 5,000 people watching my show, but I never really make $1, I'm okay with that.
It's kind of like church, If you possibly have something, possibly voluntarily, be able to donate to something, and then great. And if not, then it is what it is. At the same time, we appreciate support, and that's all that really matters to me, at least right now, at the very moment, while we're getting everything jump started.
At the end of the day, this is what I tell people: Niner Faithful Radio, we're not about begging, so we try to give you value for your dollar. So there's special rewards. You can visit all the websites and everything like that. We're just gonna go ahead and jump into this show. I kind of dragged on a little bit. So we pretty much, I think we could easily sign this up. The articles and everything that I used to get these notes will be available on the show notes on NinerFaithfulRadio.com. But basically, we signed every draft pick but Deebo Samuels and Nick Bosa. We signed 10 undrafted free agents. Pretty much Ross Reynolds, the guard from Iowa, is pretty much who Adam studies these better than I do. I can't tell you anything about Reynolds, but he seems to be the only one that we both kind of seen from what I've seen and what we've talked about in the pre-show meeting. He seems to be the only one that has a chance because if you watched our pre-draft show and our draft show, I am kind of concerned about guard depth. Not necessarily the play of guard, but, Lincoln Thomason getting injured the last game of the year, that's a little uncomfortable timeline. I'm not saying he won't be healthy, and I'm not saying there's any reason for concern. I haven't heard anything that leads me to believe that there's any reason for concern. But, knock on wood.
Sometimes no news is good news, But
sometimes no news is good news.
I understand where you're coming from, though. Weston Richburg is also going to be coming back from injury and surgery as well. So definitely hear where you're coming from.
But also, what I wanted to touch about, the question that came from my boy, I think I know this is my boy Lucky. Big shout out. Thank you, Lucky, if you're watching or will be listening on the podcast, because I will email you the podcast. But thank you, Lucky, for your question. But he wants to know about Deebo Samuel. And from what I've been able to watch from the little Grant Cohen, I believe Cam Emons tweeted some stuff. My Empire Mama, Miss Debbie. Hi, Mama. Anyway, because I know she's watching. If she's not watching, she's going to listen. Miss Debbie she's always tweeting stuff out and different stuff from YouTube and everything. So from what I've seen, this man, for a lack of a better word, the stop and go ability of Deebo Samuels. I remember this route that he's basically, I don't know the route concept, but he's basically, from what I can understand, running an out that you basically cut and then you move it into in. It's basically the best. I know that's not the technical term for the route, but basically that's the best way I could describe it. And the commitment that he got from the defensive back, I wasn't able to see who it was. But his ability to be able to use that move to separate was, let's be realistic. It wasn't like it was Richard Sherman he did this against, or Jason Verrett, or somebody of that caliber. But you see why Shanahan likes him. And to me, I didn't see anything of Nick Bosa. And I don't think anybody, because I think that would be the first thing people would put out, would be, tape of Nick Bosa. So, I don't think that's any reason to be concerned. I don't think, I didn't hear anything about, anything to be alarmed about. I'm pretty sure defensive
moving around a little bit.
Basically defensive tackles hit dummies. Look, so for those who follow me on Facebook, who have me on my personal Facebook, a little controversy stirred up this week, and I think that we'll transition in a little bit into the Lynch Shanahan and the Lynch Shanahan beef after this, is that, the Nick Bosa 97. Now, as we all know, for those who follow the show and everything, and I don't remember how I did, but I know that for people who think, oh, you just did it because of what Bosa said about Kaepernick. No, that's not why, because I was mad that Dakota Watson took 97. BY's number needs to be retired. Now, I understand that we can't retire everybody's number. I understand, I wonder if other fan bases just listen to us and laugh. Because they're just like, listen to these people really argue about whose number to retire. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's some franchises like, bro, we would love to retire one number. And y'all are arguing about, our probably 19th jersey that we're going to retire. Like, you know what I'm saying? So this is my thing about it is where I come from is beyond, if I remove myself of somebody who's a huge BY fan. I love BY. When I accepted that I wouldn't be a receiver, and when I accepted I wouldn't be a tight end, one of the things that kept me happy and wanting to still play football was Bryant Young. I was like, cool, I could be like BY. I ain't tripping. Um, but so
Mini.
and Junior Bryant. I mean, that kind of shows my age. I Dana Stubblefield. Anyway, but BY was. I mean, BY is the man. Um, so my whole thing about it is the whole thing that was blown out of proportion about John Lynch coming to Cowboy to ask if Solomon Thomas could wear number 94. I'm kind of a little bit, for us older Niner fans, might be a little insulted that he didn't go to Charles Haley, but whatever. Um,
Good
so
point.
my whole thing about it is that BY is obviously not going to be like, no, you can't wear my number 97. But it's just that you gotta ask him, bruh.
It's just a
You just
classy
gotta,
move.
yeah, you gotta ask him, John Lynch. You gotta be like, look, Mr. Young, we respect the 14 years that you played, only in red and gold, the 8 Len Eschmonts. Now, okay, let me describe what the Len Eschmont Award is. The Len Eschmont is voted by the most inspirational Niner and the best teammate. Now, that's voted by your teammates. So Bryant Young smashed the record by winning it 8 years in a row. So 8 years in a row, his teammates voted him the best teammate, the most inspirational, the team leader, basically the team MVP voted by teammates. Like, the man, he snapped his leg, okay? Puts a metal rod in his leg and comes back and plays all 16 games the next season, wins NFL Comeback Player of the Year. Okay, I believe it was John Randall from the Vikings and Warren Sapp are the only ones during his era of football active, that were active during his time that have more career sacks than him, and he's not that far behind them. I have an article that if you go to nothing-but-niners.com or nothing but Niners, NinerFavorRadio.com. I'll go ahead and put it up. But it's basically an article that I read about players that I feel Niners that I feel should be in the Hall of Fame, and Bryant Young is one of them. And so I go through all the articles.
Let's keep it real though. I'm sorry to kind of
Yeah,
jump
yeah, of
in
course.
for a
Go ahead.
second. Defensive tackles, just it's
Yeah,
hard to actually prove at times how good they were because obviously, as we know, the stats are not going to be able to translate to how good they really were.
yeah.
So that's
Eh,
always,
eh,
I mean, kind of a fun debate. It's like you can't even, especially in the older days when the run game was a lot more emphasized. It's not like this modern day
yeah,
NFL where they pass a shitload, which is essentially the reason why Aaron Donald beat so much. I'm not taking
yeah,
anything away from Aaron Donald. He's
yeah,
an absolute beast, arguably the best defensive player in the league. You could probably say he probably is.
you know,
Point is, his stats are obviously looking really
yeah,
good. He's definitely going to be a Hall of Famer, but things were a little different before where the stats don't translate to how good somebody like Brian Young really was. And Justice Smith
yeah.
as well.
Of course. Look, this is not a knock on Cowboy. I love Justin Smith. I think that as we get deeper into analytics, as analytics develops over the course of the years, I think players like By and Justin Smith will benefit and will possibly make late pushes into the Hall of Fame because they'll come up with stats that are able to analyze better essentially, let's just use Cowboy for example. Um, he will be there'll be a stat or analytics type of thing
Pressure
that will
rates,
not even pressure rate,
pass
just
rush
double teams
percentage.
taken. The stat will be we'll call it the Justin Smith stat just to be able to describe it where it's basically I took a double team so Alden Smith could eat. And I think that they'll develop a stat or a way to look at that to be able to analyze that and say, hey, actually, you know what? When you look at this or add this new stat or add this new way of or whatever you want to call it, Justin Smith was actually an elite, player. And let's not get it this. And I think that sometimes I told a story, Bill, to a friend of mine on Facebook who it's funny because I put, hey, I can accept we cannot retire all players' jerseys. But we all agree number 21 will be retired, and he put what? Eric Wright, my favorite all-time Niner. And I told the funny story. I've told it on the show about how we got our hair cut by the same barber, and I ran out and I said Dwight Clark's catch wouldn't have meant shit if it wasn't for your tackle. So I went ahead and told that story, and I think that sometimes a play by Justin Smith is the opposite victim, and when I say that is Justin, let's not forget first forced the punt that led to Kyle fucking Williams. Okay, I'm sorry for everybody who doesn't want me to cuss and everything like that. I apologize, but that's just what I call him. What led to that is, let's not forget, Justin Smith got a sack on third down that led to that punt. And so, maybe if he doesn't fumble that ball and we go on and we kick a field goal and win that game, I think Justin Smith looked out a lot different as a Niner. Because what would have it would have been, oh, who got the sack that led, or let's just say Kyle fucking Williams runs it back for a touchdown. It would have been, oh, Justin Smith got the sack that led to that play. Yeah. Anyway, so getting into,
and also not forget, playing in a 3-4 obviously takes away a lot of his numbers as well. Because if he would have been in a 4-3, I'm sure he would have got a lot more shine, a lot more tackle sacks and BS. You know what I mean? So the 3-4 definitely took away from some of his glory as well, in my opinion.
And Justin Smith allowed the others to eat. Ahmad Brooks, Alden Smith, so on and so forth. Now, so I wanted to get, as we're going to kind of look at the soft 90, I think that the position that we'll kind of save for last, because quarterback's going to be kind of a pretty easy, conversation. I think the question is 2 or 3, because the deep question with quarterback would be, if it's 2, who's the 2? If it's 3, well, we already know what's up. Yeah. So, what I want to kind of get into is I think the most intriguing battle going in so far and going in is running back and receiver. And I kind of want to jump into receiver, because the knock, but I think it's going to end up being a praise, is essentially what I'm kind of looking at, and I'm curious to get your opinion too, Adam, is essentially seems like we have a lot of slot receivers. And now we do have players that do have the versatility.
If you're going to go off of size, it's probably an easy thing to kind of, say, sometimes, you see it all the time. Like, yeah, it looks like we have a lot of slot receivers, but what, some people are failing to mention is also the ability to play outside too.
Yeah, the versatility. The versatility. Now, see, what I think is going to be the genius is between, I'm going to highlight 3 players that I sense. Is Richie James, Deebo Samuel, and Trent Taylor. Now, what is the one thing that all 3 of them excel at is running the slant route. I think Deebo Samuel will be elite.
Oh, yeah.
And I really think that this is now, what I think is the knock on that, which I think will be a benefit, is that, well, okay, you're just going to stop slant routes. Okay, that's fine. Now, whether it be Kittle or Juice or things like that, is which I think Juice is really going to eat this year, is
there's so many key.
Well, because this is my thing about it is the worst thing that you could do as a defense is let Kyle Shanahan know what you're going to do. I really think that, because I think that's really what he wants. Well, that's what any coach really wants, is to know what the defense is doing. But because when you get to dictate when he gets to dictate what you're doing, he's going to pick apart the weakness. And see, what I think is that when I see this, and obviously the size besides Jalen Hurd and Matthews, and we've added to our size. The knock has always been our small receivers, but I think everybody wants that 100 catch, 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, 12 touchdowns, and I don't think we're going to get that, because I think what Shanahan is going to do is it's all going to be based on a lot of deception and matchup based, and that's what I love, because I don't want to be, now of course we all want Julio Jones and all that, but what I'm saying is I don't want to be that team that, oh, well, you take away, for example, TL, well, what do you got?
And honestly speaking, now that you mention that, George Kittle is going to be that number one. Could be. I mean, that could easily be false. But I was trying to get at is George Kittle can be that number one guy, essentially, that the defense worries about, which will open things up for everybody else. He is your number one. We must stop him. But as soon as you do that, then you have all these other guys around that will be able to eat. So, as you said, we don't really care about the numbers, because the ball possibly can be distributed so much. And let's not take away from the running game a little bit. the running game actually excelled and went, finally got up to
Oh
a
yeah.
nice little level last year. And I totally expect Shanahan, like, all of a sudden, like, what he's not all of a sudden going to start dialing it back. Like, hey, we got a
We're
little
gonna
more
be
offensive
pass heavy
talent
this year.
from a wideouts, but I definitely still expect us to run the ball. I definitely expect them to run it even more so than they did last year, especially with the talent they added at running back.
Especially with a lot more leads. That let's get into that. And so,
The
or let's say that, and or what we presume will be a lot more leads. And
Yes,
see, this is what to get into a little broader spectrum is what I see is the key to me is we have obviously a tougher second half of the schedule, but easier to tougher as far as opponents, but easier because we have more home games the second half than we do, the first half. To me, and the reason I bring up receiver is that Trent Taylor, to me, is a big piece this year. Now I know I have been that Trent's on the bubble and everything like that. I think that if Trent Taylor can stick on the roster, and if Trent Taylor can stick on the roster and be healthy and every, I think it will be key because what I feel is
2017 form, Trent Taylor.
yeah. Or exactly. Because what I feel is that what a lot of people aren't missing, and I'm worried about this because I'm not looking forward to Twitter when this happens, is I think everybody's almost kind of expecting Jimmy to hit the ground running. And I'm not saying that that's not possible, but it's dependent on a lot of things. It's dependent on Juice, it's dependent on Kittle Corn, and it's dependent on Trent Taylor. And when I and Marquise Goodwin. And when I say these things, is if you look at where did Jimmy G during that 5-game winning streak, and a lot early in the season. And let's not forget Marquise Goodwin getting hurt so early in the season, because if you look back into the 5-game streak in 2015, who was Jimmy G Cool's main targets? George Kittle, Juice, Trent Taylor, Marquise Goodwin. Matter of fact, the fact of Jimmy G Cool's emergence and rising was one of the reasons why we felt so high on Marquise Goodwin.
That's the
Was
reason why
because
he
of how
was.
he played. That's the reason he got that extension.
I was
Was
just
how
about
he
to say.
played at the end of 2017.
Yeah, people are definitely.
And so to me is if you say well, how can the Niners be a playoff team and not get buried in the first half when the schedule gets presumably tougher in the second half? How can we not avoid that? Because I think the one thing we've shown consistently as a team is the end of the year we play well. We've shown that both in 2017 and 2018.
And
Now,
people.
say what you want. Oh, teams have quit. Whatever you want. We've played well. Okay, because let's be real. The reasons that we've had the wins that we've had have all been in the second half of the season.
And let's be fair, the teams were pretty depleted at the end of the years too. So it's not like we were like full blown healthy and all of a sudden, we feel like, we're playing with nothing to lose, bullshit and all that. So let's not sit here and act like we just got a bunch of free wins, because the team was pretty depleted where, I guess you can say easily from a personal standpoint, things were more than even. So I mean, like, it wasn't totally garbage wins.
Well, the argument that I have with Shecock fans is, with last year, and everybody, oh, they're fluke win and da 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 da. I said, okay. 2017, I believe is more what the Niners could be because, that's when we had Jimmy G Cool and everything. But this is what makes me encouraged as far as the team-wide concern is because let's be realistic. We have Nick Mullins. Now, we all love BDN, and there's some people out there who really think he could be an NFL starter, and I'm not saying that he can't be. I would be okay with Nick Mullins as our backup quarterback. I feel more secure about Nick Mullins being our backup quarterback more than C.J. Beathard at this point because I haven't seen the improvement in C.J. Beathard.
For sure.
So now if C.J. Beathard shows that improvement in training camp this year and everything, okay, cool. Well, then, because I'll tell you this competition is what's going to happen. It's the same thing Bill did with Joe and Steve. Guess what it's going to get us? We're going to get the best out of Jimmy G. Cool. We're going to get the best out of C.J. Beathard. And we're going to get the best out of Nick Mullins. I'm down for that. Because guess what that's the best for? The Niners as a football team and as an organization. Okay, so to me is what I look at is you're encouraged because we had Nick Mullins. Okay, now this is what I told the Shecock fans. I said, look, we all agree this is a quarterback-driven league. Okay. Well, offensively, who did the Seahawks run through? Russell Wilson. Okay, cool. Did y'all have Russell Wilson in that game? Yeah. Okay, who's the Niners franchise quarterback? I think we can all agree, right or wrong, whatever. Jimmy G, cool. Was Jimmy G cool in that game? No. Who was it? Our third-string quarterback. Okay, then don't tell me about anything about Fluke, bro.
Third string quarterback.
Don't tell
What running
anything.
back were we down to?
Richie James.
Jeff Wilson was the
Yeah,
premier
Jeff
starting running
Wilson.
back in that game.
And so to me,
Who played pretty good.
when I look at the keys to the first half of the Niners season, matter of fact, I'll probably write a blog about this. I'm circling Marquise Goodwin, I'm circling Trent Taylor, I'm circling Juice, and I'm circling George Kittle. And Kittle Court's obvious, a pretty obvious one, because not just even the first half of the season.
If I may, I was just going to say the Seahawks. Let's not forget the Seahawks were fighting for a playoff spot. So I don't want to hear none of that.
Yeah,
that was
I don't want to hear none of that.
Win.
And,
honestly,
and to me,
that was for Big Sherm. A lot of people played out of their minds. Go ahead, sorry.
And to me, it's don't tell me when 2 weeks before you embarrassed us in Seattle. Okay, fine. You know what I'm saying? It was a normal, Chicago Niner game.
I want to ask you something.
And
though.
let's not 10-game losing streak, all that, and a stadium which apparently everybody was bitching about a field. Well, you know what? We had never beaten y'all at Levi's before, so it never seemed to be a problem. So the field never seemed to be a problem when y'all beat us on Thanksgiving and so on and so forth. It never seemed to be a problem. Oh, now it's now. Oh, my bad. Now that it's a contest. Now that this is, and everybody, like you said, playing for Sherm, and you could tell that in that locker room, you could really tell. That they were playing for Sherman. And so those are key players to me, because let's be realistic. We all love the fact Jimmy G got into the books and spent time with Mike Shanahan and all that and everything like that, but he didn't play. And this is a man who hasn't not played a lot of football. Now, personally, I believe that will benefit the Niners more over the long haul for the longevity of Jimmy G. Cool. I think will be beneficial. I think will be the benefits of the fact that, he didn't go to the Browns and had to play right away and was beat to hell.
Let's not forget, he just barely passed the 1.5-year mark since the 49ers ended up trading for him. Mm-hmm. So I do think, like you said, we would have liked him to play the game, sure. But let's not act like, obviously, it's not going to be pretty beneficial for the time he did get to spend essentially like a coach, seeing from everything from the outside. And he was able to see what C.J. Beathard did. Hey, I would have done this a little different. He was able to see what Nick Mullins did, So I think all in all, like when you kind of combine everything and smush it all together, I'm very excited, and I do think he's going to hit the ground running, especially with the added personnel. And once again, having that time to learn the scheme that much better, so he's a lot more comfortable when he is out there. I know he's recovering from the ACL, and I think he's about 6.5 months right now removed from the torn ACL. So that's good news. As we know, George Kittle said, I believe 2-3 weeks ago, he was the same guy at the end of the 2017 season that he is now. I'm sure that he was, reaching a little bit, trying to boost him up and kind of get his confidence up a little bit.
What do you expect
and to make us feel better, probably. But
that's his quarterback. What do you expect him to say? Oh, he looks garbage. The season's doomed.
Let's keep it real. He's not a running back or a wide receiver. We're not over here sitting and worried the dude Jimmy G coming out of Eastern Illinois ran a 4.97 40. He's athletic, sneaky athletic, but let's not act like Robert Griffin just tore an ACL and you're like, oh shit, our zone read is gonna be all taken out, yada yada. He's not Russell Wilson. He doesn't rely.
Oh wow! So we've been totally slacking on the live chat.
I got it up, but I don't see anything on mine. I don't know what's going on your end.
Yeah. So Miss Debbie says we need a donation. Bryant Young is like a family to me. Mentored my son for years. Retire his number, please. Yes. So Miss Debbie, my empire mama, her son was mentored by Bryant Young for years. Bryant Young is and Miss Debbie was devastated when Bryant Young lost. Okay. So apparently I can play the video. Okay, so we're just gonna stop with the live chat for a second. I'm gonna go ahead and focus, and because we're in our zone. But so to basically get the idea, it's really what he missed was just a season. Because at the end of the day, he went through OTAs and all that last year, the same he is this year. So, let's not pretend that he hasn't been doing anything and, he's been sitting on his ass eating Cheetos. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, the one downside, and this is what I'm concerned of, another key to this season, and this doesn't get talked about, and this is why I tell people, you know what, this is a little tidbit you'll get on Niner Faithful Radio. Changing quarterback coaches. Because let's not, one of the most unsung heroes of the 5-game winning streak and the Jimmy G. Cool and everything is Rich Scandella, the quarterback's coach. Because he's essentially the one that got Jimmy G. ready for every week. And he's no longer with us. We've had to change quarterback coaches. I can't remember off the top of my head who our quarterback coach is. I know somebody's going to leave it in the comments. So that is that's probably one of the biggest relationships of the franchise. Because let's not now, Kyle Shanahan will obviously play a lot of attention and a lot of time around Jimmy G. Cool. But let's put it this way. Most of the time spent, the players spent, are with their position coaches. So this is one of the biggest relationships in the franchise.
Yeah.
Let's not put it this way. We all know. Let's not bullshit ourselves. Okay. As Jimmy G. Cool goes, as the franchise goes. So to get in, I think receiver is an intriguing position. To get back to our point, the most intriguing position, going in besides running back, but I'll put receiver slightly better because I think the running back position will take care of itself, i.e., be injury, play, things like that. Players can Raheem Mostert hold on to the ball? Does anybody else, a young receiver or a young undrafted running back, move up and shows that they have special teams value? It'd be hard to replace Raheem Mostert on special teams, but let's not think that it's impossible.
Right.
So,
DB group too. You can honestly throw in the DB group. The only lock is Richard Sherman on the left hand side. Everything else is literally up for grabs. Right cornerback, slot, free safety, and strong safety. So that's pretty big as well. But I wanted to ask you something while we're on the wide receivers. And you still there, TJ?
Yeah. Okay, we got you.
You zoomed out for a second. I was just going to ask, I absolutely love this rookie class, and I think they have a lot of potential. And we'll obviously get into that a little further. Let's go ahead and hit it on the big hot subject as far as Deebo Samuel goes. And especially since we just talked about Marquise Goodwin. I was just going to ask you, and I ended up asking about it yesterday. I didn't get too much feedback. Are we expecting Deebo Samuel to be the number one wide receiver come week 1 against the Buccaneers, like lining up at the Z? So we're in 21 personnel. So Juice, whoever the hell's lining up in the backfield. So there's only 2 wide receivers. The X, which is the left-hand side to the quarterback, and obviously the Z to the right-hand side. Are we expecting Deebo Samuel to be the number 1 Z wide receiver come week 1 with the Bucs?
No. I'm not to expect a rookie receiver to start. Because
that's why I wanted to ask you. Everybody's just pre-assuming that the guy's just gonna jump in there and just be the automatically number 1 wide receiver come week 1. I'm like, all right, I love his potential and obviously his skill set and everything like that. And I think he is a total fit, but I don't know if he's gonna jump right out of the gates to be the number 1 wide receiver and beat out both Dante Pettis and Marquise Goodwin for the pretty much the base Kyle Shanahan offense, which is 21.
Will he play snaps?
For sure.
If you listen to Kyle Shanahan,
receiver spots.
If you listen to Kyle Shanahan talk, the way he talks about it is he doesn't give a damn who's on the field first.
Sure.
What he looks at is our starters are who got the most snaps, who got the most snaps, who was most targets, things like that. So to me is now I'm not expecting it. If it happens, great, awesome, cool. We're throwing a party. Kyle Shanahan's. Now, do I expect him to contribute in that game? Yes, I do.
Oh, for sure.
But it goes back to what I just explained and why Marquise Goodwin is such a key to the season is the chemistry between him and Jimmy G. Cool. I don't expect the chemistry to be, and this goes into just one quick thing I want to touch on real quick is the under thing, and I'll admit me being heavy on we need a guard.
I felt the same way.
What is underlooked about the offensive line is just simply playing together. and not underestimating the fact that playing all 16 games last year, essentially until Lakin Thomason went out, and a little bit for the Vikings game, essentially, um, you know, that them playing together is a little bit. Now,
Rhythm
so
and timing.
I don't think Debo Samuel is going to be a starter,
Well,
week one.
pretty much what I
Now,
wanted
he
to
might
ask.
end up with the most targets. He might end up with the most snaps.
Sure.
But as far as you're trotting out base personnel, first offensive slap, no.
First snap of the game is pretty much my main question. First snap of the game against the Bucks.
Marquise
21
Goodwin and
personnel. You're saying no? I say no as well, and definitely
Marquise
don't want to
Goodwin,
piss
Dante
anybody off out
Pettis.
there. And that's not a bad thing. Like let's not act like the guys though are slouches. This is not 2017 where essentially you draft the guy, but not necessarily at a certain spot, but we essentially knew who was going to be like the starter like right away, pretty much. And all I'm saying is like let's pump the brakes a little bit. Once again, the snaps was what really matters. But I still I still don't just expect him like just to use a Cassius Marshall line. One does not come in and just take Dante Pettis and Marquise Goodwin's job. And
He
everybody's
just
kind of
does it.
assuming they're doing so.
And so I would assume if you were to put a gun to my head and said, okay, fine, like you said, 21 personnel,
21 personnel.
who's out there, I would think Marquise Goodwin and Dante Pettis.
Yeah. Then the question
I would
becomes,
assume.
who's at the Z? Marquise Goodwin or Dante Pettis?
Does it really matter?
Doesn't matter.
I mean,
I would say
they both
Dante
can
Pettis,
play.
just from the simple aspect of he'd be a little better in terms of the intermediate kind of stuff. He's like, in my opinion, he'll be better at doing the slants and stuff like that compared to Marquise Goodwin.
Well,
but it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. They both can do the X and the Z. I'm just curious, like what you kind of thought. And Marquise Goodwin, I think, would be more beneficial at the X, which is once again the left hand side.
That's what he mostly played in 2017, I believe, was X. Right?
During the stretch, he was playing at the Z, Garcon's spot.
He was
Yeah,
playing.
he was at the Z. I'm sure he lined up at the X too. I think dominantly though, the majority of the snaps because we were so depleted, and he shined.
KB that took over. Okay, yeah, he basically took over Marquise.
I'm sorry, yeah,
KB
was lining up at the Z too at times. Sorry about that.
So, so real quick, people are mentioning they want to show some shirts. Go ahead and email me at 954radio Gmail, or I'll go ahead and I'll see the comments and we'll get ahead of everybody. We'll get the pre-order started on that. Real quick, before we touch on the beef, I feel like we're in high school, bro. Did you hear? Kyle and John are no longer BFFs. Is this the end of Lynchahan? Dun dun dun.
Dude, we're in a group chat, and sometimes things get a little hot, like literally speaking. And it doesn't matter, man or woman. Like I was just thinking to myself, like it could be a bartender situation. Sometimes bartenders are on the well. I'm an industry kind of guy, so the bartenders are on the well. There's 2, 3 of them. Things are busy. It's that moment where literally, like, you got to be able to execute to the fullest, and you got to have a serious sense of urgency. And I was just thinking, like, sometimes they might have a little friction during the shift, but guess what? Afterwards, you're like, woo. We got that out of the way. Translation draft. This is a very extremely important year where, like, everything kind of mattered to the team. Do you think they're going to agree about every little thing? Of course not. But you know what I mean? Like, obviously, Kyle Shanahan is the one that got John Lynch essentially hired to be his
exactly.
He was handpicked. So to say that, like, it's not going to be all sunshines and rainbows. So it was just kind of funny just to hear it, like the reaching. Good old Matt Miller over here trying to get some clicks and bullshit. At the end of the day, like I said, my main point is, sure, there was probably a little form of, disagreement, a little here, a little there, but it's just that much of a crucial year that the draft, we just had to hit it as much as possible to give us the best chance to succeed. And then now that it's over, you're back on track and getting ready for the season.
Okay, so to touch on it is, to tie this into Niner Faithful Radio, this is why everybody people always say, oh, why don't you always share this? Why don't you always share that? Because I don't share it to get clicks. Miss Debbie, I mention people a lot because I like to show appreciation. Miss Debbie, I made a mistake. I had shared that Jimmy G. Cool signed a contract. She had hit me up, was like, TJ, that's just from the Mercury News, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And so I learned then, don't share it. It's better to be the first to be right than the first to put it out. So my whole thing, I don't do things just to get clicks. Um, but also the thing about it
Con.
is
Sorry. Sorry about that.
anyway, yeah. So the way I look at it is, from what I hear, their families vacation together. Yeah, I hate, you know, so everybody, you know, you don't vacation with people that you hate. They were inseparable at the owners' meetings. And I mean, and to just quickly wrap it up, and I just kind of thought we should get our opinions out on the air. So we're officially on record now that we think it's bullshit. So if it all does crash and burn, well, shame on us. But personally, I think that it boils down to this: is that you know what, pressure makes diamonds, and you know what, their ass is on the line. And let's be realistic. If one of them does have to go, it's not going to be Kyle Shanahan.
No.
Let's be realistic. It will be John Lynch.
Yeah.
Now that does create issues because from what I hear, Grant Conan, say what you want about his opinions. He's down on Lynch Shanahan. But the one thing he does say is that Kyle Shanahan does not like to be challenged.
It's not like to be what? Challenged?
Challenged. Kyle Shanahan does not like to be
He's
challenged.
in charge of the show. So
yeah, of course. And what
head
I think
honcho,
is one thing, and this goes back to what John Lynch had said. The whole funny thing, kind of awkward thing, was that he was asked about Kyle Shanahan before he had thrown his hat in the ring as the GM, and he said he thought he was kind of arrogant. And that's kind of always the thing that you kind of get about Kyle Shanahan is he does not like to be challenged, and he feels that he knows best. And
if I may add a little something to the mix, what honestly speaking, it just kind of came to mind, and a lot of people haven't talked about it. We don't even know how much input and shit like John Lynch literally does have. Like, I know he has the title of a GM, but let's not forget Adam Peters, Martin Mayhew, who used to be the GM of the Lions, and how much of a factor they play in. For all we know, it's like a three-way, low-key little split between like GM kind of duties, essentially, because this is John Lynch's first, he's going on year 3, but it was his first stint as a general manager. So what I'm trying to go with that is we don't even know, like, John Lynch is not like the second shot caller, essentially. Like, what I'm trying to say is that, like, I think that's kind of a more so collective effort from them. Yeah, he has a position, but it's like a split of power, and then Kyle Shanahan decides at the very end what the final say is, in my opinion.
Well, see, if you take me back to when we hired him in 2017, because although that essentially Kyle Shanahan was hired as our head coach first, the announcement had to be made, that John Lynch was hired first because of, Kyle Shanahan was getting ready for the Super Bowl. So I was pissed.
Well, you hired John Lynch?
Yeah. I'm not going to lie, because this will be honest. And it was just funny because you can see how Adams reacted because I'm a big Lynch Shanahan fan. I believe in John Lynch. And this is why I was pissed is because, I hear we were bringing in all these people with all this GM experience. And I'm like, it just seemed, when I first heard it, it seemed to be a very Tom Sula move. It just seemed to be a very, it seemed to be like hiring Tom Sula.
That's what it felt like. And that's why I brought up Adam Peters and Martin Mayhew's experience as a general manager. It's like a trio of a move.
And then I saw him bring in Adam Peters, Martin Mayhew, and starts to surround himself with people that it's like, okay, Martin Mayhew. This is for those people who don't believe in him. I see the point because the people who are down about him, the point I've always made is, how great have the Lions been? Your GM of the mind. Well, cool. How great have the Lions been? And people hear that. Look, he.
But it was experience.
I don't believe he was involved with drafting Stafford, but a lot of people say he rides the coattail of being able to of drafting Megatron.
Just because you fell in one state, once again, it always goes back to Bill Belichick. Let's not forget he got fired. He didn't get fired from the Browns. Actually, did he get fired from the Browns?
He got fired from the Browns and quit on the Jets.
He did get fired from the Browns. And then he took the Jets job. He quit like a year later. Or actually, he didn't even do a year. He actually ended up quitting and then obviously ended up going to the Patriots. But still, point is, just because you're not as successful at one stint doesn't mean you're all of a sudden, that's your career. You're done. That's it.
from what you hear from Barry Sanders and a lot, and I have family in Detroit. So what you hear from a lot of Detroit is that, and one of the reasons that my family, one of the reasons that my family is always kind of, just, oh, you spoil 49er fans, because, a lot of my family being from Detroit are Lions fans, is that, there's a lot of rumors that for the longest time, I'll put it to you this way. What a lot of feeling I've gotten from a lot of my family is, for the longest time, winning has not been the Lions organization's top priority. And so, you know, a lot of the dysfunction with that franchise, look, I'm not putting it all on Martin Mayhew as GM. That's probably ownership function. There's some issues in Detroit, So I'm not saying that. But to me, the point is as I've gotten older, I tend to not so much stomp my feet for players, and I want us to hire this coach and this coach and this coach, because at the end of the day, I don't know better than them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if you probably look back through any player I thought the Niners should get, I don't know if any of them ever have been successful. So, I have been able to, find little gems like, George Kittle. If you look back to 2017, I'm not saying, oh, best tight end in the league, but I just said, hey, look, like, this George Kittle pick might be a little something.
Yeah, I think you're also saying pretty much. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, anyway, to wrap up the point is that I was happy that we were getting people with pelts on the wall. People
Right.
that you could say, when you could say, why did you get the job, they can point to something, on their resume and say, this is why. I've been here, I've experienced this, I've learned this, I've learned that. Because I would be curious, probably Detroit was his first job. Now, a lot of us all work in the same industry by the time we're our age. We're both in our early 30s. So by the time, we've kind of, I've worked mostly real retail, you've worked mostly restaurants. So, we could both say, look, the first day I was a cashier, I'm 50 million times better as a cashier now, as far as attitude and just simply doing the job. I'm pretty sure you're 50 times the host you are now, and I'm pretty sure you probably, when you first started, you couldn't fake it to make it. Now you can make everybody think that they're rosy and they're the funniest people in the entire world to get a tip out of them, when really they're jackasses. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the point I'm trying to make is that, the longer you do a job, the better you get at it. I'm a firm believer that if you work hard at something, like regardless of what it is in life, if you can work at something and say, I put the most effort into it, I believe that you either get better or worse. You won't stay the same. I believe most people, the more you do something and the harder you work at it, most people don't get worse at something.
I was also going to say too, sometimes it's literally just because somebody doesn't have the experience for the job doesn't mean they're not going to be a good candidate for it. Sometimes you literally base off the person's literally personality and, obviously everything else that kind of goes with it, along with the ceiling of all right, I know this guy's kind of qualified for this right now, but I know in time he's going to be exactly what I want. Kind of like something else that kind of pops in mind is like Julian Edelman, when Bill Belichick drafted him, obviously he was the ex-quarterback, but he envisioned him, based off of his skill set, as far as his, measurables and everything like that he was going to be able to project to be a good wide receiver.
Yeah.
And, here we are now. So, a lot of that kind of gets involved too. It's not like, all right, you want the most day one ready. I mean, sometimes that is a situation. What I'm getting with that is sometimes you kind of basically take somebody based off his potential and, you thinking that he's going to have a chance to succeed if you put the right pieces around him.
Yeah. And I mean, so I think what a lot of this gets down to is the NFL, from what I hear, a lot of it's old fuddy-duddy. And it's always, we do things because, not because they're the best, that's just the way, and scouts and, GMs have always, for the longest time, been, people who have been scouts for 30 years and, old grizzled, ex-coach, film junkies, and so.
And you need some of those guys around. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah, and I'm not saying that. And so, I think to me, what is two things jump out, and what really kind of sold me on the Lynch hand and sells me going forward is that, and I could be wrong, and yeah, fine, I tend to take the positive outlook and faithful and always believe and things like that, but is that one is when Bill Walsh came, I read the book. I'm continuing reading. I haven't read it in a while, but the score will take care of itself. He talked about changing the culture, and not just football wise, but little things like he didn't accept. You answered the phone, San Francisco 49ers. How may I help you? And just changing things like that about the organization.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that he did were innovative. And when you watch a lot of old highlights and people talking about Bill Walsh and everything, and that wasn't football. And things like innovative things like not having every practice be padded.
Yeah.
Bill Walsh was famous for having light practices and not wearing out his players so they were fresher for Sunday.
Right.
And everybody thinks about that now, and you have where John Lynch laughs at players who complain about training camp nowadays. And even when I played football, at the high school level that I played football, is probably 50 times worse than what players go through for training camp. We had triple days. We had 3 practices a day.
Right.
And so it's and so innovative, and so forward thinking, I guess, would be the I'm from San Jose, so the Silicon Valley term is forward thinking and innovative. So I don't mind that. Is that look outside the box, and maybe that's why we were the first franchise to we've been a franchise that thought of outside the box, and maybe that's why we were the first franchise to win fan championships. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes things don't. There's not so much of a coincidence.
Right.
There's more of a coincidence than you think. Like these things have purposes, and so what bought me is that it's not. I think everybody thinks that it's GM head coach, owner GM head coach, and they don't think about the organizational input. And a championship. That's what they say, a championship organization. And so, I don't think, and I think that's one of the problems is from what I have gathered from reading source, inside, reading things, is that bulky towards the end seemed to be a more I'm in my office with my film and my player list and leave me the hell alone and go coach the players. And what it seems to be more like now is a collective. So yeah, when it's time to pull the trigger, when it's time to pull the trigger, from what I've understood and the way it was discussed in the opening press conference, was that John Lynch has final say on the 90. Kyle Shanahan has a final say on the 53.
And things could have changed over time, as we know.
I think if push comes to shove, and the pick has to come in, and guns are putting people to head, I think it's Kyle Shanahan.
I was about to say the same thing. Let's be honest. Like you think at the press conference he's gonna go up there? Yeah, I do everything. He's just kind of gonna follow my lead on all that.
He's my yes man. Like
exactly. I mean, you're not gonna trash the guy after just hiring him, like kind of a thing. Like we're making it seem like, yeah, I'm gonna take control of reins. I'm gonna have him do all the little stuff. And honestly speaking, I think John Lynch is like a low key little part-time defensive coordinator, which is I think that played a role into actually getting him, hiring him, and why we actually ended up hiring Robert Saleh as a defensive coordinator. And I think he's like, yeah, he's a defensive coordinator, but I think he's getting a lot of word and obviously whispers on kind of what John Lynch wants. Kyle Shanahan's fully on board on that. And, it's much as Kyle Shanahan knows scheme. Let's be honest. John Lynch knows defense. He's been obviously run with Tampa Bay. And they run a cover 2 scheme over there. But point is, he has a lot of knowledge. And I bet you he's whispering in Robert Saleh's ear a lot, which is the reason that he ended up getting the position.
Well, you saw a picture I just
and growing into the role himself, like we just talked about.
Yeah. And I remember a distinct video of John Lynch being on the field and talking to Eric Reed. And being like, hey, Reed, I've noticed you've dropping your hips more and you looking better. And so, yeah, I'll put it to you this way. I want it this way, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's this way. And I'm not saying that, Kyle Shanahan doesn't launch film on the defense and vice versa.
No.
But you know what? If I think that push comes to shove, I think John Lynch probably has more say on defense, and Kyle Shanahan has more say on offense. And you know what? Honestly, that's the way I want. I
I'm
want Shanahan to have more say on offensive players we select because I trust his offensive opinion more. I want John Lynch to have more of a say on defensive players because you know what? Let's be realistic. He's a Hall of Fame safety.
I'm sure that's what Kyle Shanahan informed him. And literally speaking,
Yeah.
I'm very huge on this. It's the yin and the yang dynamic. You
Hmm.
know, the majority of it is the offensive Kyle Shanahan side, but it's still the other part of the yang is the defensive John Lynch's side, which is pretty important. In my opinion, I thought Trent Baalke was a solid scout and new
Yes.
defense. The only disappointing part, like imagine if Trent Baalke had the opportunity to team up with Kyle Shanahan. I thought that would have been a sweet tandem to watch. I don't know what would have happened. I'm not going to say promise Super Bowls or anything crazy like that, but I would have loved to have seen that, to be honest with you, because I thought
I
Trent
think
Baalke knew defense, and I thought he
I
knew.
think Trent Baalke, his number one fault was that
I thought he banked on
his number one he
young
fell in
guys
love
too
with
much to take
athleticism.
over.
Yeah, and he fell in love with the projective athleticism. I think he fell in love with that regardless of injury or whatever, this player is athletic freak. Or let's not say freak, but this player is a super athlete. So we can coach him to do this, that, this, and this. And I think that, like I said, is that, and let's be realistic, is that I think let's be realistic on what essentially happened, and to go back to why even Trent Baalke really ended up our GM in the first place. You even have to kind of go back, almost, pre Harbaugh, because what essentially happened. What essentially happened was that Scott McCloughan bailed. Right? Let's be real. Scott McCloughan was an alcoholic.
Yeah,
Bailed. Trent Ball. It was damn. Trent was basically the head scout, and it was like, well, hey, Trent, it's your job, and it kind of worked out where he just
he was already
it
in
was
house. He
why,
already had scouting
yeah,
reports on
why
guys.
bring
Draft
somebody
was
in?
kind of gonna eventually come up and all that, and
It was brought in. Why bring somebody outside the organization that hasn't been here? Because I mean, Trent Baalke had been here a couple years as a scout and whatnot. So it's,
yeah.
the 49er way and all that, and
Let's not take away from him. He was a scout for a long time, learned under Bill Parcells and all these kind of guys. So it's not like he was like a slouch at, like, once again, Jimmy T
yeah,
type of hire. Like, I don't think it was on that type of level, in my opinion.
to me, I wonder how Trent Baalke. I wonder if he almost feels a slap in the face that he's the scout. Learned under Bill Parcells, traveled up and down
And
the
McLuhan.
country. And McLuhan and things like that, um, and he gets hired by he gets fired and replaced by some TV broadcaster. I mean that kind of anyway.
I'm sure he
But
understood the dynamic of things, though, and why.
but
I'm sure he even knew, like I just discussed, like he wasn't going to be the full blown GM. Hey, yo, like hired everything. Like you think about Steve Kerr in these situations too. Once again, the projection and having the right pieces around you, you can go ahead and kind of hit the ground running. When we hired Jim Tom Sula, let's not get it twisted. In my opinion, I thought that was a move of like, yo, we're going to retain the offensive coordinator, good old Jeep Christ,
yeah,
and defensive coordinator. We promoted Eric Mangini to defensive
yeah,
coordinator. So I thought it was like, yo, continuity, Jimmy T, just, rah kind of guy,
yeah,
kind of a different version of hardball ish. Like,
yeah.
not saying that's what he was, but like, that's kind of what they saw, whatever. And obviously that failed miserably. But
Well, I think what Tom Sula found out is
what did we finish in 2015?
5-11.
5-11? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wasn't
yeah, I remember that quite
going
well.
to be like elite freaking,
Which is
he's kind of
funny
curious. That's
because
why that year.
it's funny is that see I think that was the turning point to the organization because the firing of the hiring of Tom Sula wasn't that bad. I think they should have did what they did after Chip Kelly when they did with Tom Sula. That should have been because I think what was the reason you just didn't clean house was I think that Jed York was still under the illusion that and what you got to realize is at the time too. Let's be realistic. Going into 2016, we still had Cap, we still had Anquan Bolden, Carlos Hyde, we still had Eric Reed, We still had, DeForest Buckner, or well, 2016 was DeForest Buckner's rookie year.
Yeah, I think
Eric
Bolt was
Armstead
gone by that point. I think they moved to. I
was
could be wrong.
2016. He was gone after 20. Was it 2015? Was his last year?
Let me look it
Oh,
up.
you're right. It was. It was. I'm sorry. Torrey Smith was still on the team in 2016. Bolden was 2015 was Bolden's last year.
Yeah, there you go. Traded
Okay.
from Curly and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
So I mean, there was reasons to think that the transition, Bowman coming back from the injury in 2014,
True.
going into 2015 and 16, there was no reason to think he was going to tear his Achilles. You know, so I think that to give Jed York credit was that, hey, look, you could point to significant the players that played significant roles in the couple years before we were in the freaking Super Bowl. The NFC, at least the NFC Championship game in Seattle. You could point to Eric Reed. You could point to Navarro Bowman. You could point to Alden Smith. Before 2016, 2015, Alden was still on the team. So you could point to certain a certain core that you could believe that if you were Jed York and Trent Baalke comes to you and says, hey, we have Navarro Bowman, we have this, we have that, we have this, we have these players. If you allow me to sprinkle in a DeForest Buckner, if you allow me to sprinkle in a this, a that, or we can build this thing because we still have cap, we still have player, and that was what the issue. I think that was just a mistake, is that not realizing that Trent Baalke essentially did not build that early Harbaugh roster. And the problem is that you had kind of still that hangover of the Scott McCloughan Niners that mixed in with the Baalke Niners, and it kind of meshed well for a while. But what fell apart and what the telling sign was to me is as those McCloughan players started to get, the Frank Gores, the Alex Smiths, and the Baalke players started becoming more prevalent, the Carlos Hyde, the Caps, the Quentin Williams, Quentin Patton, the Deontay Smalters, the AJ Jenkins.
Wow.
As those players started to filter.
That's a name. That's
yeah,
a name drop.
Oh, wow. I know, Rashawn.
Oh, yo, it's going to be Bolden 2.0.
But, yeah, right?
Anyways. So here we are. You there, TJ?
Yeah. Cool. You lost me? I lost you. Okay, we're good. I see y'all. Okay, we're going to wrap up here pretty quick, but I just wanted to touch on this last point is that to give you a faithful like myself, that we're around the same age, how would you say that Scott McCloughan was a good GM?
Yeah, I thought he did some great things and added like main pieces to to the actual
your Frank Gores, you're signing Justin Smith.
Right. Now, when he took over with Mike Nolan, obviously, I shouldn't say took over, whatever, when he first got the job or whatever, obviously the roster was in shambles. We had just gone over not off season from hell, I'm sorry, salary cap hell. Yeah. With all the dark years and all that kind of shit.
So, the Jeff Garcia gone.
People underestimate sometimes taking over a team that's in the shambles or just got depleted with with their personnel. Going back to Jimmy Tomsula taking over, well, he got the job. Let's not forget the offseason from hell. It's like saying
exactly when he got the job, Patrick Willis was still on the team.
Right. It's like it would be like getting a car with all these gadgets and all that. And so you buy it and then they take away an X amount of those things. They take away the system, they take away the rims and all that. You're like, hold on a second. This wasn't the car that I thought I was getting. So I think people kind of overly shit on that type of situation.
And how much that really did handcuff.
I'm very huge on circumstances. So those were the circumstances. And I thought obviously if we would have had better coordinators, that who knows what the story would have been on Jimmy Tomsula. If the Mayoko never occurs and we have better coordinators.
Matt Mayoko, to give him credit, he's always said the one thing is this, and I really agree with him, is firing Harbaugh wasn't the problem because Harbaugh did have his faults, and I do think the locker room did quit on him. You know what I'm saying? Or not the whole locker room because I think Frank Gore would have ran through a wall. I think there were still Niners that would have ran through a wall, but he did not have the locker room was split. He said that the problem is not firing Harbaugh. It was not retaining Harbaugh's staff, the Vic Fangio, And that was the issue. Now, this is my question. This is my reason that I bring up, and and then we'll wrap up after this. But this is my credit to kind of to John Lynch is that because the Solomon Thomas and the Reuben Foster will always are the the black stain on his white shirt. And kind of Kittle, CJ. But let's essentially say minus George Kittle and I believe DJ Jones.
It's still to be determined, in my opinion.
To be determined on a lot
this year.
But let's the centerpiece of that draft was what? Reuben Foster, Solomon Thomas.
No, you're right. Yeah.
But we just right here will both agree that Scott McCloughan was a good GM. He's the one that got us Alex Smith, good quarterback, not number one overall, but good quarterback, whatever. But let's not forget,
Davis.
Baldwin.
He will.
Yeah, exactly. But let's not forget Cantuan Balmer. Let's not forget Rashawn Woods. Let's not forget Mike Rumpf. You know what I'm saying? And so my point about this is that let's give John Lynch is that, and I bring this up a lot, is that in 10 years from now when we're sitting this having a conversation and we got a couple Lombardi sitting behind us, a couple more sitting behind us, and we talk about, do you think we're going to give a damn? If we could look at George Kittle's if we're in Canton watching George Kittle get inducted into the Hall of Fame, covering, George Kittle's Hall of Fame induction in 15 years.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to give a damn that he went in the 5th round and that Solomon Thomas and Reuben Foster were draft busts? No, we're not going to give a damn at that point. Because
if anyone wants to have fun, go look at the Patriots drafts ever since Bill Belichick took over,
Exactly.
And you're gonna see how many times he ended up missing. Like, honestly speaking, and then the top rounds too.
And so,
the point is, you win some, lose some. You got to find ways to compensate.
So if we win championships, and George Kittle and Nick Bosa go to the Hall, and Mike McGlinchey go to the Hall of Fame, nobody's gonna give a damn about Reuben Foster and Solomon Thomas. You know what I'm saying? If Patrick Willis doesn't, if we win that Super Bowl in 2012 and maybe even win, maybe 2 more or 1 more, or make it a couple of NFC championship, you know what I'm saying? And Alden Smith doesn't blow up and Trent, and so that's the thing about it is that it's, patience, and there are concerns, but I think that we're relying a little bit too much on the growth of the secondary. I think that that's a little bit of a stretch, but we'll get more into that next week. Before we get up out of here, I have to pull up my notes because I'm a weirdo. Here we go. Before we get out of here, if you're listening to us as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Blueberry, or TuneIn, please subscribe and give us a 5-star review. It really helps the show out. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss a single video, and you have the opportunity to be eligible to win our 4,200 Watch Minute 1,200 subscriber contest. Adam, you have anything else to say?
No, as far as next week's goes, I think we'll go ahead and dive a little further into to some of the mystery personnel departments. So, as far as who's going to be at what particular spot, who's going to be battling where. So probably wide receiver, running back, DB areas, and all that. We'll dive into that one next week.
Training camp, OTA.
Yeah, May 20th is next phase of OTAs, by the way. So that'll keep up soon.
I think we should I'll probably put an article, players to watch. So we'll probably get some players to watch.
Yeah, position battles, so forth. Cool.
All right, make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Twitter is Niner Faithful R. Twitter for Adam is 49ers Insiders. Facebook and Instagram for the show is Niner Faithful Radio. We shall see y'all next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Till then, faith, love, and happiness.
Have fun, everybody. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Go Niners, baby.
See you later, bro.